and thank you, Group Futurista, for having me. Great topic, great timely message for today's long conversation, but I get to be the one who kicks it all off for you. And as Richard mentioned, Bird Eye is an all-in-one platform for customer experiences for businesses of all sizes. And what we want to talk about today is how do you automate what we call the scale gap with AI-powered CX intelligence? And that's a long title, but let's jump into what that means. But at a high level, AI works. Chatbots work when used the right way. 77% of organizations that are using chatbots are using it to properly deflect and are properly taking that high volume of customer requests, handling them in the right way, and then allowing their agents to do what they do best, which is that personalized touch. Richard already introduced me, but again, Dave Lehman, the COO and president here at Bird Eye. And again, excited to run through this with you guys today. I think everybody's heard this, we've been in this for a while, but it is the age of the experience economy. Everybody's got the iPhone in their pocket. Everybody's got instant access to information, and everybody's got a voice. Everybody has a platform to give their opinion, their feedback, their information to a brand, to an experience that they've had, but it's hard. It puts a lot on the business to do a great job every time. It takes 12 positive experiences to make up for a negative experience. So how do you think about that? How do you get ahead of that? How do you, as a business, make sure that your chatbot and AI strategy helps that experience, helps your customers improve your brand and everything? Because that's what it is. Brand is, and that experience is everything. 73% of customers say that they actually that's why they pick a brand, is because they have a good experience or they've seen reviews where other people have had that good experience. Super important to bring in those customers. And then, is somebody considered a good brand? Well, 63% of customers say that the best brands are exceeding their expectations on that customer journey. So this stuff matters. So as Richard said, we're going to use some, we want to make this interactive. We want to see some feedback here and make sure everybody's with us and giving us some information. So the first poll of the day, the first interaction, who owns your chatbot strategy, right? Who owns this in your business? Who's responsible for it? Is it marketing? Is it your support or success or post-sale side of things? Is there a CX team that's responsible for that? Is it IT and more of a technical thing? Is there an AI team that says, hey, I want to go out and do that? Or are there others in your organization? So I will give that, and on our side, a lot of it is on the marketing side, but let's see. All right, so, okay, so interesting. So it looks like marketing is in second place behind an AI team and an IT team. So taking it from the technical side, so centralizing it, really interesting. On the marketing side, next at 21, other 19%. Support and CS, that's interesting. The deflection on the customer support side is not there, only 2%, and then on the CX. So thank you for that feedback and interesting that spread. So what we're seeing, and again, everyone's talking about this experience economy, but there is this experience gap. The problem is 80% of businesses feel like they're doing a good job with it, but only 8% are actually, of these customers agree. So that's a pretty big gap. And one of the biggest things we've seen is that you do have multiple parts of the organization that aren't necessarily working together or working towards this unified goal. On the one side, you've got marketing that cares about acquisition, their leads, their conversions. That's what matters to them. And on the success side, on the support side, you've got retention or NPS or CSAT, like very different stats, very different ways of looking at the business. And so people, that we need to address, and we'll talk about it with these chatbots, need to be able to address this gap. And the way we actually look at it is there's actually a foundational gaps underneath that even to start thinking about how do we address these challenges? How do we fill in these additional gaps? So the first one, voice of customer gap, right? People talk about voice of customer, but you've got to be listening everywhere. It just can't be single channels. It can't be single surveys once a year. It can't be, simple, one survey after one experience. It's got to be everywhere. So that's the voice of customer gap that needs to be filled. The next is the messaging gap. People want to talk to you and engage your business on every platform, every app, whether it's, chat, text, phone calls, voicemail. You've got to be listening and ready to engage on every single one of those channels. The scale gap, and we'll talk more about this today, but how do you do this at scale? How do you have high touch, high personalization, but do it across your entire business and make it scalable? The NPS gap, so many people again say, hey, I had one experience with a business, I closed the ticket, let's send them a net promoter score and get that one piece of feedback and think that they've got a full understanding of their customer. The funnel gap, I know a lot of marketers on this call as well, but like you put money in on the top of the funnel and you get somebody in the door and you convert them, and that's all you do with it. But you got to just keep pumping more and more money into the top to get it out the other side. And then finally, the CRM gap, right? We've all had CRM, worked at Salesforce for a long time. Like the CRM, dream was everything in one place. But it's really good for basic information, but that real experience, that real customer insight isn't there on CRMs. So with all that being said, what we've seen, what the market has showed is this new growth formula for companies who really want to expand. It's really where marketing and success need to start working together, have one platform, one version of the truth, and they both need to be thinking about CX. On the acquisition side, how do you take happy customers and have them tell more people? On the retention side, how do you have those happy customers coming back and spending more with you? We've called it customer experience squared, because it is so much more than just even adding the two together if you do it right. So at a high level, we've got this customer experience situation that we know we need to address and dive into. But today, how do we start focusing on one of those gaps, that scale gap? How do we make sure that everybody's getting at scale as your businesses across the world, across the country, different time zones, different languages? How do you handle that scale and still give that personalized support? Well, to do that, again, it's about this automation and it's about chatbots and it's about AI, but it's about doing it in the right way. And it's about having the right pieces together so that you can give a complete experience to your customer and your prospects. So the big thing, and I know we're here to talk about chatbots, but the reality is it's part of an overall strategy. You can't do it alone with just chatbots. You need to have the right tool set to handle the different situations. And we'll go through a couple of those scenarios. It needs to be personalized. It needs to be about the sentiment of the person and knowing as much about that person that you're engaging with or that the chatbot's engaging with to make it a really great experience. It's got to be multi-channel, right? We can't just say, hey, this is on my website and I'm covering it. It can't just be in my app. It's got to be everywhere. We've got to use this intelligence to get information and questions to the right hands. And finally, this has to be a living, breathing system. It can't just be, hey, I've got my set of answers and that's what it is. It's got to be a living, breathing, growing, learning system as well. So let's start with the idea of what's the tool set? How do I do this? Well, we call it sort of the 3 modes of customer engagement. When you've got somebody, may have come to your website, started up a chat, how do you handle them? And to me, the best way to go after it is not just, hey, here's your chatbot, I'm going to try and answer everything. And I think that's been proven time and time again over the last couple of years that if you just try and use a chatbot for everything, or you try and make them too smart, it never works. You need to have the right modes and know when's the right time to bring in the chatbot, when's the right time to have a person jump in with live chat, and maybe even when's the right time, depending on your business and how you're staffed. How do you bring it offline? How do you move it to a text message, right? That is so many people are on the move when you have their phones out, like that's just where they're living and they're not always able to, get that answer in real time. So you got to bring it off to the next medium. it's got to be personalized, right? Yeah, it's got to be the name when you have it. It's got to be the basic information, but contextually as well. Where is this person coming from? Where is this question coming from? And how can I know more about the person and the situation that they're in so that I can give them a better answer? And sentiment needs to be involved, right? It's the context. What page were they on? Where were they on my website? How did they get to me? But also, what do I know about them? What do I know about how they've interacted with me in the past? And again, it's not just an NPS score, maybe. It's really looking across everything. Have they left me reviews in the past? Have they written things on social? Have they been through orders again? We pull all this together. We talk about, understanding all of those interactions and coming up with a experience score, so you can really in the moment know how to support that person and your chat bot be that much smarter. We'll go through some examples of that. On the phone call side, right? Like 85% of missed phone calls, they don't call back. What we're seeing time and time again, we're actually seeing this a ton, especially in COVID with our credit unions. They were just not staffed up to handle the phone calls and the extra demand and the extra questions that they're getting. They're being bombarded. People want to know if they're open, what their COVID policies, and the rest of it. So you've got to be able to take those missed phone calls and use your chatbot intelligently to figure out how to route those as well. You can't just be on text or just on the website. And again, when a chatbot has its limitations, when it cuts to the end, how do you use that intelligence to get it to the right person? How do I take the question? How do I understand what's there? Again, understand when I can't answer it, when I'm not the right chatbot or interface to answer it. How do I move that off to the right person so that question doesn't get passed from person to person, but only has that one transfer? Really, really important. And finally, how do we bring this all back together? Again, how do I, when I use my experts, when I use my high value resources to answer questions, how do I make sure that my chatbot and my FAQs get smarter and smarter? And we'll show you some of those strategies as well. All right, so let's take a couple examples. So this one is pretty straightforward, right? This is Frank. You can see up in the top left corner, he's what we call a lead. He's a hot lead. He comes in this case, a restaurant, asking some pretty basic stuff, things on the menu, things on the pricing. He wants to know about curbside pickup, all these things. And we call our chatbot Robin, but Robin can answer those things. Timely, immediate, in a friendly way, in a personalized voice of the customer or of your brand, matching that all the way. Do you have curbside pickup? Yes, we have curbside pickup available until 10 p.m. Again, that wasn't a question people were asking a year ago, but that is obviously got to be part of the vernacular of the chatbot. And then again, our strategy is not hiding it. If you've got a chatbot answering questions, don't try and fool the person on the other side of the line. Let them know that this was a chatbot, and let them know that, hey, did you get the answer that you needed? And all of that adds to a great experience. And again, not a single human was involved. Frank gets what they want, the company gets what they want, and everybody's happy with this basic stuff. But it gets a little bit more complicated from there, right? So we've got Jody coming in saying, hey, do you have 3-bedroom apartments available? Well, in this case, again, Robin can still look at this. In this case, Jody must have been a customer before. She's got a 10 on the experience score. But that's part of the inventory. That's part of what Robin has access to, that database of basic questions about 3-bedroom apartments, right? Can break down that sentence. And then say, okay, can I speak to somebody? Great, immediate flag that it's time to go from Robin to a human. And how do I get the right person on the line? And in this case, very quickly, got Jeff on the line and says, hey, Jody, would you like to video chat right now? Again, one of those modes that everybody wants. Right now, everybody is thinking about how do I change my business, and people don't want to always come in. Can I use things like video, like phone calls, like all these multiple channels to make sure I'm engaging my customers the right way? And in this case, can we do a live chat right now, or do you want to come in this weekend? Again, Jeff asks that question. Jody responds, I'll come in tomorrow at 5. great, see you then, the nice personal touch. But in the background, this is where the chatbot also is still listening. You don't just throw the chatbot away once the human jumps in. How do you make your system smarter and automate the processes as well? And in this case, Robin sets the appointment because it's got all the information. There's no reason for Jeff to do that work when these systems are tied together. All right, so let's keep going there. So in this case, we've got Susan Hansen. She's got a 6, by the way. It's something to keep an eye on. She leaves a voicemail, right? Hi, this is Susan. This is my birthday. Hey, Walgreens, this is, a healthcare situation, obviously, didn't give me my prescription. I need help right away. Who can call me? Usually that goes into a voicemail queue. Eventually a receptionist or somebody, a nurse practitioner will pick it up at the other end and deal with it. But in this case, Susan gets an immediate response. She says, great, we got your voicemail. You're going to be taken care of. You can text back with more questions or somebody will be getting back to you. But this is where, again, knowing Susan, not just knowing her question, but knowing more about her, knowing about her history, knowing about her sentiment, this is where the chatbot gets really intelligent. Because this is where he says, okay, Susan's got a 6. I know that based on all my other experiences with her. Let's assign this to a specialist. We know we need to get somebody to Susan right away who, again, can give her the best absolute experience. So somebody reaches back out. And in this case, Tracy picks it up, says, hey, can say, hey, give the personal touch of it, but she can also learn more about Susan. Again, putting this all in the fingertips of your agents, where it's the pass off from Robin to why it got passed off and what could potentially be going on. It's not just the score for Susan, it's the sentiment. Things that she's talked about before, things that she's complained about before, potentially, right? Things that made her score low, makes Tracy able to act quickly, solve her problem, and again, add in the notes so that next time the person has the right information around her. So getting in this case, Robin out of the way to get it to the right person. All right, let's take one more example. So we've got, in this case, we've got Martin. Martin's a hot lead, again, comes in off the website, passes some basic information, says, okay, hey, he's asking at 11:30 at night. This store in this case isn't a 24/7 necessarily. So, hey, we're going to get right back to you. But again, Martin gets that immediate response from Robin. Now, what's interesting is Chris now picks this up. He happens to be checking his thread or gets that notification that there's a text waiting for him, goes back, and he can immediately, not having to go hunt it down, see exactly what Martin was looking at, right? Without looking at or diving into it. Hey, I've got the context. I know where Martin came from. That makes Clark all that more intelligent when he answers a question. He answers it. Martin keeps the conversation going, right? What's the fuel efficiency of it? Clark does his research, pulls it up, pulls back. Okay, it's about 70 miles per gallon. And then what does he do with that? Well, that's information that he's gone out and searched for that he doesn't need to go look for again next time. That's an answer that Robin should be able to respond to. So what does he do? He adds it to the knowledge base. He puts it back in, and now Robin is smarter for the next time. Martin, by the way, has gone from a lead to a 9 because he's asking buying questions and saying, hey, I'll stop by tomorrow. And what happens, again, Robin doesn't go away, still listening, still engaged, still helping Chris be more efficient. And boom, someone says they'll stop by tomorrow. Great. Let's give them the business hours. Let's give them the location of where it's going to be. So again, guys, a bunch of examples. Chatbots, fantastic for deflection, fantastic for giving immediate responses, fantastic for helping you scale your business. But alone, they can't do it. You need a strategy that has your live, your text, your AI all in one place. You need to understand that customer. The chatbot is only so smart as the context and the sentiment that you give that person. It's got to be all channels. It can't just be, on your app or on your website in chat. It needs to be everywhere. How do I use that AI to go from a human and AI driven thing to an expert? How do I not just say, oh, let me get you the next available person, but let me get you the next right person to answer your question? it's got to be continuous learning. If you just set it and try and not do anything else with it, it gets dumb. Things change, questions change. You need a system that lives and breathes. And finally, again, guys, this is where that ownership is key, and the mindset is key of the CX squared. We need everybody thinking about the customer experience. We need everybody piling in here to make the chatbot successful, to make your business successful. And that's it. Thank you very much. Hopefully you learned a little. I'm here for a couple more minutes for questions. I don't know if some questions are coming in, Richard, or.
Yeah,